right. This is Wes with John again. Almost feels like last week all over again. I thought that for a minute we were going to have the exact same score again. It was close. But John, initial reactions: Florida State 38, Syracuse 3.
Yeah, I mean it's just another week. Come in, take care of business. It was a professional level effort, both sides of the ball. Fun to watch.
Yes, it was. It was. Even though I had told you and said a little bit last week, I was kind of expecting that. Once again, blown away. We kind of predicted or tried to predict last week what the line might be. I don't think either of us thought it would be single digits. I was pretty blown away, and I think it ended even at seven. Started maybe at 7.5, but started exactly how I thought it would. Maybe got a little. I don't like this on that fumble. And the
Mm.
defense, it's like it just woke them up. And I have to look at the final, but I know, like, going into the fourth quarter, what did Syracuse have? Like 72 total offensive yards.
Yeah, so somewhere in that neighborhood, defense really stepped up, played really well. I thought the story of the game was really going to be, our offensive front against their defensive front, and I think it was the was it the second play from scrimmage? What was the Benson had a 25-yarder pretty early on,
Yeah, I think that was the
where
second play.
I don't think he was touched until he was like 18 yards downfield, and that's about when I knew. I think I blasted out to one of my group chats, like we're gonna roll them, like if we're gonna be able to block it up like that, the push just blowing them off the ball, and I mean you saw, I mean they got that 5'11" guy playing defensive tackle, like we blew him off the ball pretty much all night. Benson averaged 9 yards carry, something somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
Benson pretty much, I feel like Benson could have kind of set his number of what he wanted to rush for. I mean, it didn't seem difficult at all for him. And, when you said pushing him off the ball, I think about that little screen out to McLean on that touchdown. I mean, he just, that guy. And that
yeah,
that play also made me think about last week. You talked about, um, because of some of the plays they went back to constantly in that Miami game, that there must have been something they saw on film, and they clearly saw from their film study for Syracuse this week that they did not have good perimeter defense, and I mean they just destroyed that. Those little screen passes and passes to
hmm
the outside. I mean, you saw it on Johnny's touchdown, and it was there when you wanted it.
yeah,
Um, and there again, I think it was another one of those games. Had they wanted to, I mean, that score could have easily been in the 50s or 60s. Um, just
yeah.
good to see. It's just good to get back to where it's like it's been a while since going into the second half. You're like, ah. It'll be fun to see what the second team can do.
Well. Fortunately, we didn't have to score in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah,
We really just 4 points would have won it because our defense played so well tonight. You know, Verse, uh, Patrick Payton, love it. Just Syracuse did not have answers for the pressure that we were bringing, and it didn't really seem like they had any weapons that could really hurt us outside of Tucker. But the the bigger our lead got, the less of a factor he was, and so it was really just a dominating effort by the defense tonight.
absolutely. And I think probably a combination of how well the defense played and definitely started, and then maybe him having been out the last game and a half or two games, but Schrader didn't look like himself to me, and I just don't think Florida State gave him a chance to get comfortable. And then when nobody picked up Peyton on that third down, and he just rocked them, Schrader might as
Yeah,
well just gone gone to the bench at that point. I saw there's a comment here from Greg. He says, his first time since 2013, a Knowles team has held opponents without a touchdown in back-to-back games. I didn't realize that, but that's definitely very encouraging.
Yeah, we're getting into all kinds of fun statistics, given the streak that we've been on, kind of after the bye. But it should be noted, that the quality of opponent that we've faced has not been all that great after the
Absolutely.
bye.
Yeah.
You know, we had a Georgia Tech team that's been kind of reeling this year. They've got the interim head coach that he's trying to keep things together, but that's a bad team. And then kind of then we have severely undermanned Miami team, just one of the worst teams that I've seen come out of Coral Gables in a while. Like, that's just a bad Miami team.
Hey, they whooped up on Georgia Tech today.
Yeah, well, it just that speaks to how bad Georgia Tech is.
I thought of you this week when I saw that news about the Miami quarterback commit that backed out. I thought, oh, he'd appreciate that after that butt whooping last weekend. Um,
You
so
really
so
hate to
on
see
the,
it.
so on the whole, how would you say FSU matched up to your expectations going into that game?
Um, I mean, I certainly wasn't expecting us to hold them to 3 points, but offensively, I think we performed about as I expected. I was thinking we'd be in the maybe 35 to 40 range, 35 or 42 points, and then I was thinking we'd surrender probably like 17 or 20. So offense is kind of humming right now, kind of still performing up to expectations, but the defense, man, I was not expecting that.
I would definitely agree on your thoughts on the defense. I would say the defense definitely went above and beyond my expectations. I
And
did.
Adam Fuller, broke the rock in the locker room after the game. By the way, so obviously the defensive effort was recognized in the post game celebration as well.
And I think that was very fitting. And it's just been good to see a different energy on defense. And I feel like, especially the last two games, and there again, like you said, not two great teams. I mean, obviously on paper, Syracuse was expected to be better than Miami,
Especially with Schrader back.
especially with Schrader back.
Yep.
Um, we talked a little bit about it last week. Looking ahead to this game, I thought Syracuse was probably not quite up to their billing of their 6-3 record coming in. I think that definitely showed, and I think playing a more diverse team in Florida State, you definitely weren't going to beat Florida State with three players offensively, which they've been able to do when they got to 6-0. That just wasn't going to happen tonight.
Right.
Um, and that obviously seemed to be the expectation of Syracuse. Talking heads and fans coming in was, well, if we've got Schrader, it's a different game. And
Yeah.
the only thing that maybe would have been different about it is might have been over a lot quicker, but you couldn't have been over too much quicker than it was. I mean, obviously, but Del Rio Wilson, he might have had more yards tonight.
Yeah.
Schrader in garbage time.
Well, I'll tell you, going in, going and reading some of the pregame, the previews from the Syracuse side, they were kind of talking about our below average run defense, and I, that's one of those things that needs some context around it, right? So losing Fabian Lovett is probably, maybe outside of Jared Verse is our best player on defense, right? We lost him
No question.
game
Yeah.
one. Yeah. And so then really the only teams that really, ran the ball on us, we had, Clemson with Shipley, but then Louisville put up a big number on us, but a lot of that was Cunningham. And then against LSU, it was all Jaden Daniels. So it's like we faced some pretty dynamic, you know, dual threat quarterbacks that they were able to put up some running on us. But, you know, once we got Lovett back, I couldn't see Syracuse having that much success running the ball on us. But that seemed to be what all of the
Thought
you know
going was.
all the hope was being pinned on was a battle of two average run defenses. But those were very different defenses that had faced a different level of competition. And so I felt pretty good going in that we'd be able to more than hold our own. But I wasn't expecting that. Where they're double digit yardage going into late in the fourth quarter. Like,
Yeah, I didn't quite expect their rush game to be that bad tonight. Yeah, I would echo what you said. You take out those Russian quarterbacks and all those broken plays that they had against us. Shipley's the only one that they really lined it up and ran it down our throats.
yeah.
Nobody else had, and I think it was their second drive. They were
And
running.
again, and that just before you
Yeah,
going into that Clemson game, we didn't have Fabian Lovett for that game.
right.
And so he's a big game changer up the middle. I don't know if you saw him during the game today, but he jumped out a couple times where he was just throwing linemen in the backfield.
Oh yeah.
The guy's an animal. Yeah.
Well, he was a big one that disrupted the play I was going to talk about. I think it was like 2nd and 10 maybe. I'm thinking it was their second drive, and they were doing like a counter to the left with Tucker, and he starts to go and realizes Lovett's there, so he tries to turn it back, and I mean the containment was just great on that. I mean there was just really nothing going anywhere, and you look back at especially their first 6 games. I mean I remember in that Purdue game and some of those games, Tucker kind of did what he wanted to. It was kind of like a video game. Oh, the play's called to this side, but I can kind of come back and I can wiggle and I can do whatever I want to. And that just wasn't there tonight for him. And once
Yeah, we did a great job at the perimeter. Bernardo Green had a big tackle for loss early, and you know, Akeem Dent, he does this where he comes flying in out of control, and he puts a big hit on the guy, but he never wraps him up. You know what I mean? Where he'll just come and throw his shoulder in there. He did it a couple times tonight, where he ended up making the tackle, but it's one of those where if he doesn't knock the guy off balance, he ends up giving up a big play because he doesn't wrap him up. And
Right.
I think the it's become enough of an issue. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, he didn't start tonight. Shaheem Brown was in on the first play. Actually made a really nice pass breakup across the middle.
Yeah, he had a good game.
Yep, yep. But the broadcast was talking about how little success that Tucker was having, bouncing runs up to the outside because of how fast we were, and Deloach came downhill, and our corners were getting off blocks. It was just defense played so well tonight.
Firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
They were determined. They definitely Fuller had that game plan intact, and they followed it to a T. I was looking back at it. I can't remember how many he had last year, but I definitely, one of the things I want to talk about was just how much of a non-factor Schrader was. If you'd have told me before the game Schrader was going to rush for -2 yards, I don't know if I would have believed that. Um, he was a huge factor last year in the
Mm-hmm.
game that we pulled out right at the end, 33-30. And, multiple third downs last year and nothing's there. He tucks it, 3rd and 15 to get 16 yards. I mean, just like clockwork. And that's what he's done a
Mm-hmm.
lot of this year. A lot of what got them to that hot start was with Schrader. You think about his last drive there against Purdue, helped Purdue having to punt it from their 7. But you couldn't count Schrader out. 27 seconds left, drive his team down the field and
Mm-hmm.
win the game. And I just couldn't. I would have never expected him to have had as little impact on this game as he did. He didn't look quite right to me. I think definitely he didn't seem to have the confidence he normally does, and I don't know if that was just a lack of preparing the last couple of weeks. It almost seemed like he was a little surprised he was playing.
Yeah. Well, when you're coming back from injury, especially if you're not 100%, not everyone has the ability to shake off an injury like that. And they still haven't disclosed what he's dealing with. So it's really kind of hard to comment on, what he's trying to play through. But, he definitely did have a little bit of a limp that he was trying to run through. So I don't know if it's like an ankle or a knee or what, but or as Dino called it, a lower body injury, like we're playing, hockey. You know, like
Lower body strong. Speaking of Dino, I don't know if I've seen a coach just more kind of disheveled and befuddled on the sideline. Like it was just like he wanted to be anywhere but there. And that
yeah,
again is some of the talk coming in of how he's turning this thing around, and playing in the dome is just so much different. And I think Florida State just took the dome and the home field advantage out of that so quick. But
man,
just
they were trying to talk it up like it was some electric atmosphere, but there were large patches of empty seats in that stadium when they started the broadcast. I mean, it sounded loud. I mean, I'll give them that. It sounded loud on the broadcast, but when they were showing it, that was not a sold out game. There were a lot of empty seats at kickoff, anyways.
and a lot of people left at halftime. I think it was a lot emptier second
I
half.
could I could get used to that. You know, every road game we get them filing out the door, but we don't have uh, not every opponent that we play on the road is going to have fan bases that are as pathetic as Miami or Syracuse, where where they're going to roll out of a big time game in prime time. You know,
Oh yeah, no, that's not gonna happen regularly. So if you were gonna hand out game balls for this game, who would you say offensively stood out for you?
offensively, outside of the obvious, Trey Benson put up huge numbers, but my game ball goes to Micah Pittman, man. I love
Oh
that
yeah,
dude. Like he he hasn't shown up, in a big way on the stat sheet in a few games, but man, like that dude plays every play at 100%. He loves contact. He loves to block. I think he is one of these guys that really, leads by example, sets the tone, and he's a big reason why our wide receiver room has made such a big turnaround year over year. What about you? Who gets your game ball?
it would be like you said. It'd be easy to go with the obvious choice, Benson or Travis. What was Travis? 17 of 18 in the first half. Had one
Hmm.
ball hit the ground. Um,
I think he ended with two incompletions, so he still threw more touchdowns than incompletions.
which is crazy. Um, I think I'm going to go with you on Pittman. I actually, for those watching, we didn't talk about this ahead of time. Um, but I was just, like you said, not taking a play off. He stuck out to me just on some of the, and obviously it wasn't a game where it mattered as much, but just the little extra things he was doing on special teams.
Oh man, that one punt return where he took like 7 or 8 big shots, and
Yeah.
he's yeah.
I mean, he's been one of those kind of glue guys that we've been missing. He's not going to, obviously, with his size and all, he's not going to be the Johnny Wilson. I think we've or I've mentioned before. He kind of almost reminds me of like he's got a different build, but almost like a Kenny Shaw on that 2013 team. I remember one time I told you I kind of compared him. I thought he was going to be like a poor man's Percy Harvin. And in some ways, I think he's kind of lived up to that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just going to do what's asked of him. And tonight he was big, and I like that. His first drive, wasn't it, that end around he had? I thought he was going to break it. Was that the second drive?
No, I think it was his first drive.
Um,
But yeah, it's like on that big run I was talking about, Benson, the second play. Pittman's block on the outside is what makes that, like instead of like a 12 or 13-yard gain to the 25-yard gain. It's like little detail stuff. It's like he does his job on every play, and yeah, he's become one of my favorite players, even though he doesn't necessarily get the big highlight plays all the time. But I think he's been a key pickup for our team in the turnaround that we've had.
and one of the guys that once he came out of the portal and signed with Florida State was big in, I think you mentioned this, but big in recruiting a lot of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Norvell's given a lot of credit to him for getting Span there. He was high school teammates with Johnny. Big part of why Johnny came there, and big part of why a lot of people thought Burton, when he entered the portal, might come there. But some of the issues Burton's had, I'm kind of glad he didn't come. But we don't need anybody hitting people and saying he was scared of people coming on the field after games.
Right.
No, I think that Pittman's been huge. You can tell Norvell thinks a lot of him, has him be a very vital part of the offense. And as far as the defense goes, I don't really know who you'd give the ball. The defense just played so well. Maybe follow the team's lead in that and just give the ball to Fuller.
Man, the much maligned defensive coordinator, where I feel like it's been back-to-back seasons here where we're 3 games in and everyone's calling for Fuller's job, only for him to hit a stretch in the schedule where everything comes together, and he gets his stay of execution for one more year.
Well, you got to be thinking. I mean, a year ago, I think it was a year ago this weekend, in the big win against Miami. But outside of even that win, think about where Norvell must be confidence-wise now compared to where he was a year ago. And knowing that there were some people that already wanted him gone. And you're still going to have those. I mean, I've seen it on some of our comments on some of these videos. You see it on some of the group chats. You have those people that are just committed to the fact that they're not going to buy into him. I saw one guy put in the group this week, Norvell could win 3 championships, and I'd still believe he wasn't the guy. And you're just not going to do anything with mindsets like that. But it's hard. You said it last week, and it was true again tonight. Regardless of who the opponent is, it's hard to watch this team and not say that something is changing, something's clicking.
Yeah. Well, Norvell definitely deserves a lot of the credit for that. And I really hope that like the Dion crowd will quiet down a bit after we've had a couple of convincing wins. It really does feel like our trajectory has quickly shifted higher, and it's really only going to get better as now we have a viable product on the field that we can sell to recruits, and so that's really just going to be what takes us to the next level. And and I know Norvell's been probably the best in the country at using the transfer portal, and that will probably be a key part of what we do going forward. But we are starting to get the attention of some of these higher profile recruits, and that's when you can really start building championship level teams where you get not just the quality starters, but you start building depth so that next man up. And it kind of blew my mind when they were talking about you know uh, when our backups were in. They were talking about on the broadcast tonight how good our backups were.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think a lot of that is we've had a lot of injuries that we've had to deal with kind of mid-season there, where we had to have guys step up. And even though we lost 3 games, we didn't get pounded by anybody. We had respectable showings against every team. I mean, obviously, Wake, we were scoring late to make it close, but we were a circus catch on third down away from getting the ball back to go down and tie the game. And if was it Greedy Vance that gave up the the catch over his head against Wake?
I believe
That
so.
Yeah. So I mean, if he catches that or even breaks that pass up, and we get the ball back, that's a possibility. But it's we've had all these guys start getting minutes in these games early in the season, and now they're kind of rounding into form. We've got a squad now.
Yeah.
Where if we have someone go down, it's not as big a deal as it was earlier in the season. And so if we can start you know selling the vision of the team to some of these high profile high school kids, that'll get you to a higher place, so that not just your starters get better, but that second, there's no fall off, right? when
Right.
when someone gets tired, hurt, whatever, you know. And so just for Norvell to be able to sell a viable product on the field is going to be huge. I if we end up with uh, with winning out and we're 9-3, we have a top 10 recruiting class.
Oh, we got Mike on with us. Says, "What's up? Go Knowles, Mike." And we agree. Hashtag Mike does got us. At least I'm in that camp. I'm pretty sure John is.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, big time, big
and
time.
I agree with everything you're saying, and I think Norvell's doing it the right way. You know, he's not cutting corners. I think you're exactly right. I think we will see if we finish out how we can. I mean, 9-3. I was just kind of looking at it. I mean, even projections I looked at this week. I mean, we should be looking at getting a pretty decent bowl with probably what's going to end up being a pretty good opponent. Depending
Yeah.
on what bowl we're looking at. I know some of the bowls where we would match up with a Big 12 school. I've seen potential opponents as Baylor, Oklahoma State. I mean, I think either one of those probably pretty good draw. Oklahoma State kind of got it back on track today. Some of the teams I've seen for if we got paired with a Pac-12 team could be, potentially UCLA after
Oh,
losing
that'd be a
tonight.
fun one.
That'd be a lot of fun. I think
Yeah.
it was
I,
what
I don't I don't think our defense would hold up super well against UCLA.
That's true. We got somebody says
We don't need to give any attention to that. Oh, he Norvell does deserve a raise. You're absolutely right, 21.
Who's the Master of Dreams a fan of? I don't know. Yeah, probably a Gator fan. You're right. But I think that will just add to it. Big bowl game, big team like that. Yeah, maybe don't want to play DTR.
Yeah.
Oregon definitely doesn't look as scary after tonight. I don't know if you saw that, but did not expect them to lose to that Washington team.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's a pretty good. Michael Penix Jr. He's a pretty good passer. And it's not like Oregon's defense is anything special.
No, I agree. I'm trying to figure out who he says has been there since 18. We must not understand Norvell came in 20.
2020.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I guess he was hired in December of 19. But so next up, Louisiana. Billy Napier's no longer there, but you get some of his former players, and we get to play Napier the following
As
week.
I really liked. I don't know if this is true or not. This is all hearsay, but Brenton Cox Jr. got dismissed from the UF team, right?
Right.
So allegedly, he called Billy Napier a Cajun Willie Taggart to his face.
Wow.
Which is just an awesome nickname for Billy Napier.
That's a really good nickname. That'll be definitely a fun one to use after that Florida game or during that Florida game. You see the question there from 21. I'd like your answer on that.
Oh yeah, he's definitely a Gator. There you go. Napier's on track to having top 10 class next cycle.
No,
yeah,
but
next year's your year, man.
21's question. He was asking, do you think Travis will come back next year?
What do you think? I think he does.
I think he does. I mean, I know you and I, we were looking at Phil Steele's, that was the beginning of the season, but his projections and Travis wasn't even in his top 60 guys that could go pro. And I'm sure there's still doubts for a lot of the scouts if he's the complete guy. I mean, maybe somebody like Jalen Hurts having the year he's had maybe gives him some more hope. But I think another year with the progression that he's had is going to be in his best interest. And obviously, I'm hopeful that he comes back.
Well, I think this is an instance where the new NIL stuff is going to be to our benefit here, because you're right, he's not getting a whole lot of love from the scouts. His physical measurables are not what the NFL scouts are going to want to see. His arm strength isn't off the charts good, but he doesn't have to go pro to make a bunch of money, right? So it's like he can get a pretty good NIL deal here. And honestly, if I'm him, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to make everyone think I'm going to leave until I get my 7-figure NIL deal.
The Jordan Addison deal.
Exactly.
And of which, I mean, I haven't paid attention to it a whole lot, but I don't feel like Addison's had quite the stats this year. 587 yards is all he's got on the season. So he probably won't be repeating his best receiver in the country. And I'm sure that's still a sore subject with Pat Narduzzi.
When I'd say, when's the last time we had like a back-to-back Blitnikoff? Did Justin Blackman do it? I feel like he did. That was a while back, though.
Yeah, that was a while ago. What a waste of talent. Didn't do anything in the league.
Yeah, just little substance abuse problems. He was always in trouble.
Always in trouble. Master Dream's having fun with us tonight. He said FSU had no NIL money.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't either. And I mean, that's
I mean,
trying
we
to say
obviously have some,
yeah. I mean, we might not have Miami's guy, but what good is that doing them?
right?
It'd be interesting to see how many of those guys stick around. And I mean, look at the NIL money at Texas A&M. That's really doing something. 3-7.
Oh yeah, that's a fun streak too. So A&M is the highest preseason ranked team to not make a bowl since 2010.
Hate to steal your words, but you hate to see it. Hate to see
the
that.
Worst. It's the
Couldn't
worst.
happen.
I can't wait to see A&M buy out Jimbo for $90 million.
Go hire Billy Napier.
He might be available.
So any thoughts on Louisiana next week? 5-5, just one Thursday night against Georgia Southern.
I mean, they're not a team that's going to be able to compete with us. You know, I'm hoping this is more just a game where we're able to stay healthy, get some young guys some reps, and get out of there, start game planning for Florida.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot else to say on it. I mean, if we've got a ball game on our hands and you've got a completely different team showing up than we've seen the last 2 weeks, get in there, take care of business, like you said. Get Tate and some of those guys in there, get them some reps.
Yeah, just stay healthy. Stay healthy. That's the only thing that can really derail us, even though coming down to the end of the season here. But
Chris John says we got Louisiana 63-0. I'd love to see that. It'd be great to go 3 games in a row, not giving up a touchdown, and then going against Master of Dreams 1's Florida, and not even let them get past the 50. That'd be a great finish to the season. But with Richardson, I don't know what's going to happen.
I'd say UF's looking pretty solid. Their offense is rolling.
Yeah, and like we said last week, I mean, you can't deny the talent Richardson is.
Yeah.
And ETN's been coming on, and I'm in no way trying to discredit them. I do feel like if Florida State plays like they have been, that they should beat that team. And you heard the announcers tonight say it was a good Florida State team.
I mean, they're certainly not on the same level as Miami. I mean, Miami is just like absolute bottom feeder.
They beat Georgia Tech. I don't even trust them that -1.5. I stay away from that.
Yeah. But no, I mean, the big thing with Florida is, will their defense be able to put up any kind of a fight against our offense? And so, rivalry game, at least early on, I think they'll be able to put up some sort of a fight, and maybe they'll start throwing the ball to us like they did last year. But
hopefully, I still can't get some of those images out of my head of Richardson just throwing it right to those Kentucky players on those screen plays. I mean, they had Kentucky down and out. And they just, he literally, what was the stat after that game where Richardson had thrown 3 touchdowns, but none to Florida players? It was all to the other teams. That's a good stat. And I still don't think he has too many. And then I guess we talked about it last week. I'd have to go back and watch the video, but I think you had said your prediction was Florida State would come in about 23 or 24, right? In the selection.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That was my. I was like 23-25.
So came in at 23. Now you got UCF at 22. They won today, but Illinois at 21 lost. Notre Dame at 20. They won, right?
Yeah, barely. I think they won 35-32.
I knew it was close. I never saw the final on that.
Yeah,
I think last I saw, Kansas State was just destroying Baylor.
yeah, they won like 31-3, something like that.
Texas lost. Tulane lost. I wouldn't shock me if that dropped Tulane out. NC State lost.
Boston College. I cannot get a read on Boston College. I've lost so much money on Boston College this year. Like, I
couldn't believe that.
I can't get a read on them. I stayed away this week.
I've really pretty much stayed away from them. I forget which game it was. Was it? They beat Louisville, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was after that game I stayed away from them. I just because after that Florida State game against them,
and then they lost to UConn.
And then UConn beat Liberty today, right? After Liberty
Yep.
beat Arkansas. Arkansas should have beat LSU. So looking at that, I mean, you're looking at a potential. Yeah, I mean, you never know. Some of these teams on the outside looking in get a win, they move them up. But I mean, a good possibility of getting to that 19, somewhere in that 18 to 20 range, I'd say.
Well, I mean, don't forget you've got LSU clinching the West, and so that's kind of our signature win up to this point, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
so they're going to be moving up in the poll as well. So I don't know. I could see us in the high teens.
And there again, not where you want to be, but after the last couple of years, after that 3-game skid this year, to be at that point, 10 games into the season, it feels pretty good. It really does. To even see your name or see the team's name come up on those Tuesday night selections after it been so long since that happened, it kind of seems sad to be excited about that. But it was. These steps to getting back to relevancy. Chris Jones wants Bama. I don't know if I quite, even though Bama's sliding.
This is not the same Bama team that they've had. I'm not saying we'd win, but we'd be competitive.
I think so.
The only team I don't think we would be competitive against is Georgia. I think Georgia would eat our lunch. That's about it.
Yeah, but Georgia everybody's lunch.
But you are right. It is a lot. It is a lot of fun on Tuesday nights to see Florida State come up, even if it's further down the polls. I wonder if UF and Miami even remember what that's like.
Maybe Master of Dreams can let us know if he remembers that. But it was just 2 years ago, the thrown shoe, right? Think about how downhill it's gone since that shoe being thrown.
Man, that was pretty
bad LSU team. Oh, that was a bad LSU.
That was pretty epic. The shoe throw. Oh man.
And I know we need to wrap it up. I was thinking though, watching that LSU game today and then watching Florida State tonight, if those two went head to head now, because as we talked about, it'd be nice to play Wake Forest right now. It'd be nice to play NC State right now. What do you think that Florida State LSU game would look like at this point? Because even though LSU's gotten better, I think Florida State noticeably has too.
I mean, it would be a battle. It's really hard to say if we would win again. We certainly would not dominate the game like we did. When we were we were in the stands there, like just going up and down the field on them. You know, we were 11 of 14 on third down. It's at one point. You know, I don't think we would get that kind of a performance, but I think we would still be kind of going back to it. There's not a team in the country we could not be competitive against outside of Georgia. And so it's been a while since I've been able to feel like that confidently, but I do believe that now.
I do too. I was just interested in your thoughts on that. Well, we definitely, win or lose, will be here at Master of Dreams Friday night after Thanksgiving. And I welcome you to come on, win or lose. And if Florida wins, I will eat my crow, let you have your say on it. But I want the same opportunity if it goes the direction I'm hoping it goes. And we'll see if you show up. Yeah, Chris, I agree. It's been a long time of misery. I'm hoping it's finally over. At least for this year, it's felt good.
Yeah.
So, any closing thoughts?
No, I mean, I'm very excited to see, you know, the ceiling on this team. You know, I'd like to see how many weeks we go without giving up a touchdown. And if it's another 2 weeks, I'm going to be a pretty happy dude.
Me too. We'll kick off. What is it next week? 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock, Louisiana. So we'll not have to be doing this in the wee hours of the next week.
Yeah.
Hopefully be a quick one and then get ready for Florida. Appreciate it, guys. And we'll see you next week. Florida State 38, Syracuse 3, and Florida State moves to 7-3. Everybody have a good night.